Hello, welcome. You can tell us where you are watching us from so that we have an overview of how far we can reach. So welcome to the webinar series, Human Rights and Psychology. Today's topic is Citizenship, a Unified Third Voice. This webinar is connected because we always try to connect the topic of our webinars with important dates that are set in the United Nations calendar. And a few days ago, on the 16th of May, it was the International Day of Living Together in Peace. So we think this is a very good connection with the topic that we have today. Next slide, please. The organizers of the webinar are the Global Network of Psychologists for Human Rights and the International Council of Psychologists. Today's speakers are Aimee Nasser Karam, then Charbel Nasser, and Serge Shulika. All of them are from Lebanon, and they are the activists in the Third Voice for Lebanon, which you will hear more about later. The people who are also with you here, the hosts, are Mary Bullock, who is behind the screen doing all the work that you cannot see but is very much visible, and my name is Marlena Plavšić. Next slide, please. So you can find more information about both organizations that are behind the webinar, that are organizing the webinar, on the respective websites. So Global Network of Psychologists for Human Rights is a platform that provides information and many information that connects psychology and human rights. You can, if you subscribe, also receive a monthly bulletin, which brings news in the field of psychology and human rights. We're also trying to build the educational part of the platform so that you can have the opportunities to find materials for educational purposes, because we know that psychologists lack knowledge in human rights, and we find it very important for our work. International Council of Psychologists is an organization that is older, much older than the Network of Psychologists for Human Rights. It has vast experience in organizing conferences. One of them was held last month 2 months ago in Rotterdam in the Netherlands in Europe, which brought a very interesting topic of migration, inclusion, and human rights. Next slide, please. Let me give you some information about the practical issues regarding the webinar. You will have the opportunity to ask questions or comment, either in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and then we will reply to those questions. You will also receive the certificate of attendance. It will be automatically emailed to you, probably in 2 or 3 days, if you attend the webinar for at least 40 minutes. Also, we will send you an evaluation form because we need your feedback so that we can organize the webinars as good as we can. Also, you will have the chance, or other people that you know of who might be interested in the webinars, you will be able to see the recorded version, the recorded presentation, which will be available on the website of the Global Network. Also, if you need to have the closed caption, you can find them on the Zoom website that you are on. We enabled it to be used. Next slide, please. Let me introduce the speakers, today's speakers. So there are 3 people who are speaking today. Aimee Nasser Karam is the head of clinical psychology in the Department of Psychiatry and Clinical Psychology, and professor at the School of Medicine. She is a member of the Academy for Cognitive Therapy and the founding member of the Institute for Development, Research, and Applied Care dedicated to mental health in Lebanon. Dr. Aimee is a member of the Global Network of Psychologists for Human Rights. She is the member of the steering committee, and she is one of the founders of the Third Voice for Lebanon. Serge Shulika is also an activist in the Third Voice for Lebanon, also a co-founder of the Third Voice for Lebanon. He is the member of the organization because he believes that the civic movement is important for promoting citizenship, dialogue, neutrality, and peace building in Lebanon. He has led initiatives to foster constructive political discourse and community engagement. Serge organized forums and events to encourage youth participation in nation building. Serge also advocated for social cohesion and policy reforms through collaborative efforts. Our third speaker today is also Charbel Nasser. He works at the St. Joseph University at the Faculty of Medicine. He is a mindfulness instructor certified by Bangor University and the Mindfulness Network in the United Kingdom. Charbel spent over 20 years in advertising worldwide at top agencies until he did something completely different. He took a sharp, he said, 180 degrees turn, walked in the opposite direction, practicing meditation extensively on his own and at Vipassana retreats. He currently conducts guided mindfulness-based stress reduction sessions and meditations. So I'm giving floor to you, Aimee. Please tell us what you prepared.
Thank you. Today I'm going to talk about the Third Voice for Lebanon. Just to introduce Lebanon is a small country with a population of 5,700,000 and an area of 10,452 square kilometers. Next. As a background, so you understand a bit in which context we are living, since 2006, following many civil conflicts, there were many attempts for a national dialogue in Lebanon, assembling all key Lebanese political factions, the majority and the opposition. However, leaders failed to forge a compromise over a host of conflicts that have paralyzed the country and led to a very problematic state of sectarian polarization. Next. So until very recently, national politics remained deeply affected by political and religious sectarianism, which was kept alive by an entrenched sense of prejudice and distrust among the different communities in Lebanon. Next. So in this context, we, the people, the normal people, the citizens of Lebanon, we needed to get out of a sterile binary choice. We needed actually a third voice. And when we were stuck, we didn't want to just think either or. So the third voice was an alternative. And it came as a response to a situation in which we were stuck and divided. So if you look at the logo here, this is the logo of the Third Voice. It's in French, in English, and in Arabic. Next. So what is the Third Voice for Lebanon? It has emerged, as you can understand, from the civil society and for the civil society as an independent association that is secular and non-partisan. And when we talk about independent association, it means that it doesn't have any political belonging. Next, who are the main actors of the Third Voice for Lebanon? The Lebanese citizens living in Lebanon and abroad, in Europe, in Canada, in the US, in the MENA region. And the way we met, it was like a networking, one person telling the other and creating this movement. And we start networking and organizing ourselves through Facebook. And slowly, we met in person and we became a registered association with a formal platform aiming for change. Next. So, what was our vision? Our vision was to create one nation with a respect for diversity and pluralism, working the idea and the concept of citizenship, a country that can follow the rule of law and encourage and empower the civil society participation. So, we want people to belong and to participate to create this movement. Next, the way we proceeded, we use what we call a strengths-based approach from a community perspective. So giving the power to the people and showing them that they can do something, they can do something different by creating a national enthusiasm towards national unity and not a sectarian divide, and to promote and facilitate, which is the most important thing, rather than a culture of violence, a culture of dialogue. And when we talk about culture of dialogue, definitely we're working about the culture of peace building. Next. And to create an idea or a culture of dialogue and peace building, we need to forge different attitudes. Attitude towards principle of secularism, towards equality, and especially meritocracy, which means when you merit something, you deserve it, and initiate major shifts and sustainable social development in the community. Like, for example, we started getting more interested in societal issues like civil marriage that encourage mixed marriage. We started talking about some values like the permissivity in sexual orientation, women rights, International Peace Day. Like it became like a subject by itself, interest toward the environment. All these matters or all these issues actually put people together. They have a function of uniting people. This cannot create differences. And a concept that is quite difficult, which is encouraging what we call the civil neutrality, that I think that my colleagues will elaborate a little bit more about it. So how did we do that? Next. So the way we did that is that we started bringing people towards conferences, and through these conferences, giving voice to movers and supporters of the Third Voice for Lebanon, and engaging people and institutions. Like the power or the lever of this kind of change are schools and universities. So we started making schools and universities based intervention, like sensitizing the new generation towards peace building, towards citizenship, through context among inter-school contests, um, doing some activities in the universities, etc., engaging young people to do this, and taking peace building initiatives, working in common interests like forging solidarity through a collaborative approach. Next. And we started as a history for Lebanon, like putting the celebration of significant dates that were almost very vague, like Women's Day, International Day of Peace, assessment and distribution of eyeglasses to the underprivileged people, like all these kind of activities that are societal. Through these activities, we were aiming to change attitude and mentality. And we did also that we were visiting key people in the city and villages, planting, for example, trees that symbolize peace and putting people together, and keep up the hope in the now and in the future, rather than ruminating about the past and the conflict. Next. And we started implementing psychological and human rights concept, like the impact of conflicts and scars on people, awareness of the role of beliefs and assumptions, how much it can influence our way of dealing with others when we hold beliefs that are rather a dysfunctional coping mechanism, tackling the faulty thinking, generating possibilities, and working outside prejudice. Next. So, in brief, what are the lessons to learn? Actually, for me, what was and for my colleagues also, what we learned is that during the conflict, you need to have something, a movement like this in which you believe in, to build resilience, to have efficient coping strategies, to create our own meaning, because everything is actually depend on the meaning that we attribute to something. A mediator of for us, the 3V was a mediator of personal and community change and growth. But also, it was very surprising how much people can get so close around some subject, but also they can be so far triggered by threats and personal history. And this, we continue to see it in the third voice, like among people, that we can at times be so close to people, but people are very vulnerable to be sensitive to personal history and to threats. And the ambivalence between citizenship and what we call deadly identities. So the concept of citizenship was a concept that was putting people together rather than having identities that were deadly identities when a person defined themselves through their political belonging or their religious belonging. So the citizenship is above all this belonging that is could be successful in putting people together. Next. The pitfalls that we have lived is that there were the incidents of overwhelming events and timing. We had in Lebanon at the same time the explosion of the port. We had the COVID. We had a very big crisis, a financial crisis. So these events that happen and the timing, they overwhelmed our efforts at a certain time, and we became a little bit dispersed. So also the war and the geopolitics, and also the time consuming, because when you belong to a movement, you need to put time in it. And sometimes people didn't have the time that was required to be successful in maintaining a movement like this. Next. So what remains in the third voice today in May 2025, it is always an anchor. It has been an example of resilience. It shaped in us an attitude that will never go. It created a friendship among some of us that we maintain, and I think this is the most valuable thing. And I would like to finish my presentation with two say that are a metaphor to this third voice. It is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important. And the second one is the one of Gibran Khalil Gibran, which is a very well-known writer. If Lebanon were not my country, I would have chosen it as my homeland. I will pass on the talk to my colleague Serge Sulika.
Yes. Thank you, Aimee. It was amazing, very precise, and very interesting. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Serge Choulika. I'm Lebanese, living in France. I'm married. I have 2 children. And in my presentation now, some topics will be probably repeated because it was said by Aimee, but it's okay, you will understand it better. Maybe we should take a step back to understand why this Lebanese NGO, the Third Voice for Lebanon, has been created. A step back and 2 very important years to remember and to point out. First, the 3V, I mean the Third Voice for Lebanon, was created in September 2011 and registered at the Ministry of Interior in 2012. Okay? But why this NGO has been created? And I would like to point out two years. After January 1986, first, February and March 2005, and second year 2011 in February, June, and September. But why January 31st, 1986? Because it was the date I left Lebanon. Maybe I should say I flied away from Lebanon, I ran away from Lebanon, I don't know. But the main reason for having left Lebanon at that date, but remember, it was in the middle of the Lebanese civil war. So this date, it was that the Christian Lebanese began to fight each other in 1986, January. They began to fight each other. And I thought that we were united to fight against the will, at that time, the will of Palestinians to make Lebanon their own land and to expel Christians from Lebanon. The Palestinians at that time were a state in the state. And I said to myself, I don't want anymore to prioritize the future of my country instead of my own future. This is why, at that date, January 31st, 1986, I left. So the 2 years, to point out, 2005, so 1986, 2005, almost 20 years after my departure to France. And during these 20 years, I was concerned by Lebanon and what was happening, but it was from far away, from the outside. I mean, I was not deeply concerned. And on the 14th of February 2005, Rafiq Hariri was assassinated. It was the former prime minister. He was assassinated by the Hezbollah. And then on the 8th of March, a first group of political and confessional parties has been created, in which we have the Shias, Hezbollah and Amal, the party of the Speaker of the Parliament, Nabih Berri, so the Shias, and half of the Christians, almost half of the Christians, represented by Michel Aoun, the former president. They created a group, a political group, a pressure group, confessional parties, and the name of this group was the March 8th. And on the 14th of March, so 6 days later, a second group has been created. And in this group, there was the Sunnis, represented by Saad Hariri, former prime minister, and Rafiq Hariri's son, and the other half of the Christians, mostly represented by Samir Jaja, the president of the Lebanese forces. At that day, a huge demonstration kicked out the Syrian army from Lebanon, 30,000 soldiers who occupied Lebanon since 1976. So, two groups created, 8th of March, 14th of March. 8th of March, Shias and Christians. 14th of March, Sunnis and Christians. And the second year to point out is 2011. The civil war began in Syria, and I was very worried because of it. Very worried because it could dangerously affect Lebanon. So, a little recap. Because of the civil war, Lebanese civil war, 1975, 1990, because of the Lebanese civil war that failed, because the Lebanese people was profoundly divided in two groups, only in two groups. because the civil war in Syria began, because there was no alternative than the 8th or the 14th of March. The idea of the 3V has been created. But to be more specific and concrete about the third voice idea, the 3V, the third voice idea, has to be an independent, non-partisan, non-sectarian, and proactive think tank. This is what said Aimé. It has to be issued from the civil society, and it is the civil society's voice. The third voice is a phenomenon that has always existed throughout the world. It offers a positive and sustainable alternative when a country confronts stagnation and crisis. Third voices are often similar in their claims, but at the same time, they are all particular and different when it comes to their national, cultural, social, and economic heritage. We believed that solution may emerge from the civil society, the Lebanese civil society, as political parties didn't bring any solution throughout all these years. All the governments were unable to find any solution because of their inefficiency and because of the corruption. Lebanon and most of the Lebanese people and most of the Lebanese political parties were divided through their allegiance to different foreign countries. Therefore, we were unable to decide for anything, so the country cannot go forward. In 50 years since the beginning of the Lebanese Civil War in 1975, Lebanese politics has never succeeded to reach sustainable solutions. It has always been dictated by foreign countries, and it made us go straight to the wall. Lebanese politics was a short-term approach, and the general interest of the Lebanese people was not considered. Only personal ones were. Again, at that time, we believed that what might work are the actions that come from the bottom, it means from the people and the civil society, to the top, it means the parliament. Lebanon needed to be reformed. It required new laws and the amendment of several existing laws. We needed Lebanese citizens to work collaboratively to promote and preserve peacefully the uniqueness and the diversity of the Lebanese social fabric and strengthen the concept of citizenship. We needed to make the mentalities evolve and to forge new attitudes and perceptions to let them meet the principles of secularism, equality, justice, transparency, and meritocracy. We needed to assess and establish findings, to anticipate and to propose solutions, rigorous plans, and fundamental reforms. We needed also to implement proposals and to communicate the needed information to the appropriate instances. We needed finally to create a hub of active, constructive, and civil attitudes and to encourage a sustainable dynamic of development and peace building. The third voice for Lebanon mainly worked on 4 substantive parameters, which are citizenship, dialogue, neutrality, and peace building. Our goal was to bring awareness about these fundamental topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Serge. Sherbel?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Marlena, Mary, Aimé, and Serge. I will be a bit shorter. What I will talk about is, I don't know if you were able to understand what Serge exposed as a complexity of the Lebanese political scene, because I myself sometimes get lost in it. it's that complicated, honestly. So many parties, so many factions, so many people following the wrong people, but in their opinion, it's the right people. So the third voice for Lebanon came as a light at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel. And it came at a time where really what Aimé and Serge exposed, it was, at some point, it was very hopeless because of the complexity, like we said, who to follow. And there was no one anymore who represents us. And when I say us, it's us, without being judgmental or the true Lebanese, the Lebanese who loved Lebanon as it was supposed to be. And the third voice tried as best as possible to bring that Lebanon back. And in our opinion, now there is this light again in Lebanon. It's starting to shine somewhere in the horizon. There is international support, there is a national will, there is a new president, a new government that is bringing some kind of hope. And I will just share with you that at some point, so many people used to tell us, why isn't this third voice the new government? They used to tell us, you have the structure, you have the people, you have the skills. And this is what we thought at some point. We thought that maybe we organize ourselves at the image of a government and hope that maybe when there is a chance or there is an opportunity, maybe we can take over. Of course, we realized at some point that the game is a bit bigger than this, especially what we saw in the latest events, as Serge said it very out loudly, the fall of Hezbollah, which was a relief to us, the Lebanese who love Lebanon. And without going into the political aspect, it's simply because there should be only one government. And that was what the third voice, we call it the 3V, that's what the 3V was trying to achieve, to bring back just the unity, one government, one Lebanon, not factions and people who want to go after with the politics of the United States or Syria or Iran or Europe. So that was really what was missing in Lebanon at that point, was unity of voices, and that's why it was so fragmented. And we did everything we could to bring that unity back to Lebanon. Aimé mentioned a little bit the creative ways that at that time I was still a creative director, so I was very concerned or responsible for the communication that we did, everything communication, and to find this unifying language wasn't that easy. And then we discovered that actually all we have to do is speak Lebanese, like the Lebanese culture, that we are one. We need to be one again. So she mentioned, Aimé mentioned some activities we did that were quite unifying. They were based on well-being and uniting as many people as possible away from politics into cultural things, artistic things, even social work, all the things that Aimé mentioned. I won't take time to mention them, but that was a challenge. But at the same time, it was such a pleasure and so hopeful that I mean, I myself, I was contacted by Serge, that I didn't know Serge. He just contacted me at some point and he told me, we're starting the third voice of Lebanon, and we saw what you write on Facebook and we like the spirit of what you write. And of course, Aimé, I knew Aimé is my sister, my younger sister. And so that was really such a beautiful thing when the third voice was created, and it did a snowball effect, because everyone who loved Lebanon was joining the third voice. It became almost like a filter to know who in the society is really looking for the Lebanese interest, and not for the foreign interest or the faction's interest. So that's I'm gonna stop here to leave some room for discussion and questions. But it's such an honor and really a pleasure to share our story from a small country. And voila! I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So this is the point where I remind the audience to ask questions or comment on the things. Maybe you can share some similar things that you have in your countries or wherever you lived or experienced similar situations. I would like to thank all the three speakers for the very nice presentations of what they've been doing, and also for what they've been doing. So for the initiative and for the effort. So let me start with some questions. When one of the questions is related to psychology and psychologists, because this network is dedicated to psychology. So how do you say? What would you say to the colleagues, psychologists who say, this is too much activism? Is psychology supposed to be a profession that is activistic? Does it include or exclude activism if you're a psychologist? Maybe, Aimee, you have the answer, because you work, from your biography, we learned that you are a psychologist in the very, very strict sense. You work as a clinical psychologist, among other things. So that's a picture of psychologists in many heads, in many minds. So how is this connected? How do you see your role as a psychologist in this activism?
I think that for me it was such a learning experience to be able to get out of the strict clinical work, and to realize that psychology is the science of behavior, is the science of emotions, is the science of way of thinking. And when you have this step back a little bit and you look at your community, you look at your country, and you say, wow, as a psychologist, I have a role to play. I have an input, not a role as someone who knows it all, but as an input to engage people and to understand people and to shape a certain change. And actually, this transition from the clinical work to the community is how you realize that our profession has so much extension and so much input in the community. In conflict resolution, for example, in understanding the meaning that people attribute to things, in understanding how also the meaning can be buffers towards establishing link and relations among each other, how threat and fear can play a role that is detrimental to this unity. So yes, definitely, I think, and this is what we are seeing now more and more, that the psychology is scaling up. So it's no more just a work that you do between your patient, and it's two people doing this work in a setting like hospital or clinical work, but it goes out to community, and it where you embrace psychology, community, human rights. And as you know, Marlena, there is no psychology without human rights, and there is no human rights without psychology. So this is my answer.
Thank you very much. You already gained some compliments for this answer in the chat session. There is a question from Gulzar Ahmad.
Sorry, Mariana, if I
Yep,
can
yep.
add
Sure,
something
sure.
to the answer
Yeah,
of
please.
Aimé, which was very precise. I'm not a psychologist, but when a country is at war, when a country is stuck, when a country has no issue, has no future, you must change things. You cannot just um, uh, you cannot play your role as your profession or something else. This is why when a country like Lebanon, there was a need. This is why you must change. Thank you.
Yeah,
It
thank
was
you.
even
Yep.
existential, if I may add. It was even existential. So there was no room for thinking like, should I or should I not? We can't just sit as on the sidelines and watch. It was that kind of a call.
Thank you very much. The question that we have from Gulzar Ahmad is just related, of course, to what you just said, because it's about the description of the situation in the country. So the question is Lebanon united now under an agreed leadership? Is Lebanon progressing or declining? What do you suggest for a better Lebanon in future? So actually it's 3 questions that are related.
If I may answer a short answer about it, you must know that for 50 years, we never had a president, an independent and an independent president, never. Okay, and a prime minister, independent prime minister, never. Today, it is the case. So it's the beginning of the road. We are not united today as we should be, but it is the start. It is the beginning of what we believed in in the third voice. It is the beginning of the dream we had. Maybe Sharbil can add something.
You know, that's it's really what you said. It's the dream, it's our aspiration. It's really the true Lebanon that was never divided the way it has been for the past 35, 40 years, divided for the wrong reasons. So we have a lot of hope, really a lot of hope in the new government. They are clean people, and we should be patient. And I really like, I saw in what Paul said in the chat, it's really beautiful. He wrote, it does seem that psychology can support developing listening skills, patience with self and others, and stress management. This is really beautiful because that's what we need most right now in Lebanon, listening to others, share with each others, and work together. And this is happening. This is happening. It just requires some time after so many years, long years of pure disunity and fragmentation. So we have
Also, maybe what I can add is that there is a sense of burnout. I think people are fed up from doing war. And at a certain time, when you have tried so many attempts and so many conflict and so many approach, at a certain time you're burnt out and you realize maybe, each one, we are now all equal. We all had our part of misery and our fail and our fall and our success. So maybe it's time now to put our hand together and to build something that is a bit smarter and a bit more conducive to a real nation.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned war. You mentioned it many times. You said you're fed up with war. Coming myself from a country that that has a history of many wars. I grew up learning in history, in school, in the subject of history, I always learned about wars everywhere in the world. So that war is a kind of normal happening, normal event. How do you, what arguments do you provide to people that peace is a good or a sustainable thing, when people have learned that wars are a constant, that there are always wars, that there are many interests behind the wars? How you, as a third voice that has peace in its mind, in its mission, what arguments do you provide for peace as a good option?
I will go first.
Can it be sustainable? How can you say, can it be sustainable?
You know, I don't think that we can predict the future so well, or we can talk about sustainability. I think we can, as third voice, what we try to provide, and this is why it's called the third voice, because it's like when you have a binary system that are fighting together, a way of stepping out this binary system that is stuck is to have a third voice, which means a different way of doing things. And a different way of doing things, this is where human rights comes in, this is where the culture of dialogue come in, this is where the culture of peace building comes in. We're not promising, and actually because it's a process that each one becomes responsible of building, even if we don't have a promise, because we don't know, who are we to know, that this is something that is sustainable. But at least if we experience this way of being, and if we experience these possibilities, and if we learn it to our children and to our young people, through our attitude, leading by example, it would be a better way of being. And if you look at other countries, you have countries where it is really peaceful. So, can a human being stay peaceful all his life? I don't know. Maybe there will be conflicts, but there are violence and conflicts. There are constructive conflicts and deadly wars. So we want to avoid the violence and the deadly war. And I think this is possible. I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody see you, the third voice, as a threat?
Yes. Sherbin and Serge, maybe you can give some example how much we were a threat to the political parties.
Well, I will just mention one thing. When you have a lot of corruption and a lot of people benefiting from corruption, and more than that, living on corruption, when they see someone doing the right thing or calling for the right thing, it's just math. It's not even an observation or an opinion. It's math. When someone is coming to tell you what you're doing is wrong and you should be penalized for it, that's the answer. So we were doing the right thing, and I say it very proudly and assuredly, because none of us had any. Thankfully, people were chosen very carefully, really very carefully. Not with any other parties. Some of them were with parties, but not hardliners, because we needed to unite people, not So of course, that was the main threat, in my humble opinion. If Serge would like to add something to that, I don't know.
Yes. Well, there was threats, of course, and the members of the 3V, we were in this organization because most of us, all of us in the 3V, the most important thing is the general interest, the big picture. You see, the big picture for Lebanese people, for Lebanon, and unfortunately, not all the Lebanese have, not all the people have this idea, this projection. So the people who have not this this behavior about personal things, personal interest instead of general. These people were the threat.
Thank you. Well, there are some colleagues commenting. Sharon Cohen agrees that there is difference between conflict and war, referring to the previous answer that Emma said. Sure, yeah, peace doesn't exclude conflicts, but it's the way how we, of course, deal with them. And then there are questions that I will put together regarding the reason for the division of population in Lebanon. So there is a question that says, what is the main reason for the division? Is it the justice system or cultural conflicts among various sects that has divided the Lebanese profoundly? And then, yeah, and another that says something similar. Do you think that such fragmentation of communities in Lebanon is or was due to the external conspiracies or own selfish community leaders? So the reasons for the division, can you say a few things?
The main reason is religious. This is the main reason, unfortunately. And people prefer to follow the person in charge with the same religion. They put religion first and then the country. This is the main reason.
And I would add that religion in Lebanon actually were following different political views, and they were identifying to different political entities or to different culture. Like, for example, it was known that part of the religion is following more the Arab world, another part of different religion are following more the European Western way of looking at things. So religion is also a culture. It was represented, or it was related to different culture and therefore to different political approach. So this is one thing. The second thing, most probably, it is that Lebanon was a host country. It has hosted lots of people coming from outside, like a refugee coming from Palestine first, and then Syria, and then Iraq, and then so this melting pot, we need lots of maturity to be able to host people so different, so various. We need lots of maturity, and we don't think that we had this maturity. Because this is it's a living experience, and it needs very, very long time to come to or a complete rupture or a complete acceptance. And this is not very easy. I mean, Lebanon was always like hosting and going through, and it's a country that is a tampon country. Like, it's between two big entities like Israel and Syria. And this is not easy to be a country that you call a tampon, a pays tampon, a country that is a tampon. I don't know the right word in English, but it's such a challenge. So we have had years of good life together, and we call this in French the vivre ensemble. And it was possible for a long period of time until the challenge became very difficult and very hard. and we fell.
You know, just a small addition to clarify this as well. Let's not forget that in the religions in Lebanon, there are differences by themselves in terms of extremism and indoctrination. So for some, you know, the doctrine for like Hezbollah, who are mainly Shia, they have this doctrine that for them it's in the Muslimizing between quotes, Muslimizing the land. It's a doctrine. You see it as well in many others in many other places, like the religious belief of Israel of owning the land. I know it's a little bit of a sensitive subject to open up here, but this was a big reason as well, that a lot of extremism became present in the country, and this extremism led to even bigger divisions. And that's why the third voice always called to separate politics from religion. That's why Aimé started by saying, or Serge, secular. It's secular, non-religious. This is the most important part, to start dividing and separating religion from politics. Otherwise, the issue will perpetuate.
Yes, that's what Shukriya Khan also concludes. She says, thanks for clarifying. What I got is that in Lebanon, religion, like other domains, is also politicized. It is dealt as political card. Correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, and Gulzar Ahmad agrees that extremism is harmful. So I would just go back and emphasize something that MAU said at the beginning of the presentation. You coined the word saying death or deathly identities. What do you provide as an alternative, or as an, again, sustainable option for people who find religion as a very important part of their identity, or their nationality, whatever, ethnicity, whatever we call it, culture, if they really feel it's a very huge part of who I am? How do you put that into this big frame of what you're doing?
Yeah. What we try to do actually is to come up with the concept of citizenship. And the citizenship would be the identity that is unifying identity. So each one can have his identity in terms of religion, of beliefs, of political belonging. However, you can live all this identity under the biggest identity that is the only one that can put people together, is to create this concept of Lebanese citizenship. And we declare the Lebanese citizenship as being the unifying identity. And this is the title of our presentation: Citizenship, the Unifying Identity. And this is what we wanted really to do. And how is by showing people that beyond their political or their religious identity, there are so many things when you share a nation, a country, that belong to the citizenship that are unifying. Like, for example, the environment, the sexual orientation, the civil marriage, what you do for your country in terms of development, economy. All these things are important to everyone, to everyone. So human rights, it's important to everyone. So if you consider citizenship putting together all these concepts and all these values, and this is what you promote in a country, and you make people work through this identity of citizenship, it's going to be for the good of everyone without competing with other identities that if you put them as primary, it's going to be deadly identities. There is a famous book by Amin Malouf that the title is The Deadly Identities. When an identity, instead of being a bridge to cope or to make a link with others, a bridge with others, it becomes so much introvert and so much a deadly identity. And this is terrible, where your identity becomes a deadly one.
Can I just connect this
Well,
with the question? Yeah, sure.
sorry, if I can add something about religion, we believe that religion is something private, and the identity as well. There is many identities, and like Aimé said, we respect all the identities and all the religion. Religion must be private, and identity must be respected. But most of all, what has to be respected and to be promoted is the citizenship. And about the religion and the identities, in Lebanon, there is only religious marriage. There is no civil marriage. This is what we began to promote, the civil marriage, because it's a secular approach. We don't say the civil marriage must compete or replace the religion one. No, they go together. And this is what we try to promote, the civil marriage, and we believe that if we continue, or if it is to be continued, the civil marriage, it can be a very good secular approach for religion and for different identities.
Thank you. That's a good example with the civil marriages, a concrete example of what you're doing. Let me go to one more question before we conclude. Actually, some people mentioned the refugees. So Sharon Cohen said, can the focus on Lebanese citizenship be leveraged to build connections with refugees and immigrants? And also, Dr. Joshi said, can we conclude, can't we conclude demographic change put Lebanon, the country and the people, because refugees create demographic change in the basic population. So what about this bridge that you were mentioning before, citizenship? How do refugees and immigrants fit into this citizenship and bridge and unifying people of the country? And can we also give some suggestions that are overarching also to the other countries in the world facing similar situations?
I think we need to be realistic. Like we need to have the means of our politics, which means that to build a kind of peace building or a citizenship, there are stages. It cannot be done from one day to another. So first, we need to create the citizenship, this unifying identity within our country, within people, the Lebanese people, the Lebanese people, before we start really relating to refugee in a way that is more fair or more just. Because don't forget that Lebanon had internal conflicts, and it had also financial crisis. So how can you imagine, a host country like receiving such a number of refugees and dealing with all this chaos? So it's difficult for me. It's difficult to answer this question. But I think that when you have a strong citizenship and when you have a strong sense of citizenship, you have this sense of unity that would make people less vulnerable to division that could be encouraged by refugee within the country? This is
Yes, what I may add, it is that you should know first that Lebanese people in Lebanon are about 5 million people. We have 600,000 Palestinian and 1 million Syrian refugees. So we cannot deal with such numbers. You can promote citizenship to refugees when the number of refugees I mean, it's not very important like this one. A correct number of refugees, yes, if there is a correct number of refugees, you can promote and share the idea of citizenship. But now, with 1 million Syrian refugees and 600,000 Palestinians, it's impossible. And like Aimé said, we must first begin with ourselves, with our own people.
And you know what makes it, just a few words, what makes it even more difficult is the fact that we cannot forget the reason why refugees came to Lebanon in the first place. It's because of situations in their own countries that are really pitiful and dangerous, and fortunately for them, but unfortunately not for us at the same time, unfortunately because it makes the situation even harder, is that those refugees, most of them are getting financial aid that makes their situation a lot more comfortable in Lebanon than back in their countries that have been quite destroyed. We're talking about the Syrian situation. So really separating also between governments and populations, it's a massive amount of people to relocate and convince them to relocate. A lot of Syrians try to go back. They find themselves unhappy in their country because they have it easier here in Lebanon. So
Okay, I can conclude. I have some ideas how I understood what you said, but before I do that, I would like to ask you if you want to have some closing remarks, if you want to say something, because we are in the end of our session.
I would love to say an ending remark on the question of peace. It's not my personal belief, but a huge belief in the world that this is the only answer. You know, when Gandhi said that eye for an eye and the whole world will go blind, if we continue like this is where we're going to be stuck, and we are stuck in this vicious circle. The only answer is negotiation, peace, and I add one more thing, loving kindness, and that's coming from my mindfulness background. Loving kindness, really, this is what the whole world needs now. A lot of loving kindness, away from artificial intelligence.
And you know what Gandhi said as well? He said that there is a word, a remarkable word, but I don't like it. But unfortunately, I don't find a better word than this one. It's tolerance. And
yes.
if I can conclude with something about the youth, we didn't speak about the youth generally in Lebanon and elsewhere, of course. This is where first things must be done with the youth, with the young people. It's a big concern for us. This is why we created, with the 3V, we created clubs in university to bring awareness about these matters of citizenship and dialogue, neutrality, and so on. So if something must be done, is with younger people first. Thank you.
What I believe is that human species is not going to change much. I think we hold in us lots of capacity to love, capacity to build, but also capacity to fight. And I think if there will be always some people who believe and who can spread hope and who can believe in spreading a different meaning. If you feel it inside of you and you feel the power to do it and the will to do it, don't hesitate. You know, the process is sometimes more important than the finality. The process is more important. You can engage in something, even if you don't reach the maximum that you want to reach, it's okay. You need to try and to always try. And you need to believe all the time that things can be better. This is my just my humble final remark.
Yeah, it's your personal as well as professional, I would say, remark, because that's how you support people in your work. So yeah, there were many important words that I just put here. Unifying language, I like that very much, to be one again. The path as well as the goal, just what you said. I like that very much that you mentioned responsibility, taking responsibility, owning responsibility, not just waiting for someone else or finding excuses in the past, especially finding excuse. It has always been like this. It's such a culture, it's such a mentality. So there are possibilities. That's what you said. You promote options, you promote alternatives. I hope that you really raise, you said, to diminish the weakness, I would say, to higher the resilience, that's to strengthen the resilience, so that you believe that you can do something, not just easily believe that it's not doable. Loving kindness and young people as the future carriers of future events and whatever future brings. Thank you very much. There are many beautiful comments and support that you can read in the chat. Yeah, many people emphasize the importance of a dialogue. That's something that is a very powerful tool to achieve these things. Thank you all very much. Maybe, Mary, we can just have a look at the final slide, so that I remind you of, or maybe I can say it, I should know it by now. So we would like to hear your feedback. You will receive in your inboxes the evaluation form, or the link to the evaluation form. It's very short, but it's important for us when we read what you wrote. You will also receive the certificate of attendance if you attended the webinar for at least 40 minutes. You will receive it in a few days, so it will arrive. You can also see it again, watch it, or tell some of your colleagues to watch it. It will be, because it was recorded, it will be on our website, Global Network of Psychologists for Human Rights. Thank you very much. We will let you know about the next webinar soon. So if you subscribe, you will receive the information as well. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you, Aimee. Thank you, Serge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.